Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever
We
you
use the
are.
same
Thank you
connection.
so much
So
for giving me this opportunity to be with you today and giving a talk about historic and religious architecture in Najaf and Kerbala, all cities, as an example of this architecture. My name is Zuhair A Nasar. I'm senior lecturer in Faculty of Physical Planning, University of Kufa. Religion plays an important role in most people's lives, as there are more than 10,000 distinct religions worldwide. Around 84% of them belong to one of the five dominant religious groups. Almost every religion has its own holiest shrines, where pilgrims of faith from different parts of the world gather to practice their rituals. Therefore, cities with a religious character are among the most important sites in the world, historically and ideologically, because of their close association with the history and the culture of community connected with them. For example, Islamic sites and cities and their historical and cultural depth linked to the depth and history of Islamic civilization, such as Mecca and Medina, which represent the most important sites in Islamic social cultural for more than 14 centuries. Therefore, researchers have extensively studied these cities as a study of a unique phenomena. On the other hand, many Islamic cities are no less historical and religious in importance than Mecca and Medina, but have not been studied in the same level as Mecca and Medina, despite their religious value. It can be said that the cities in Iraq are among these cities, where we have four main cities that have not been studied in the same level as Mecca and Medina. So these whole cities are Najaf, Karbala, Samarra, and Al-Qadamiyah. These whole cities have special characteristics which difference from the normal or traditional Islamic sites and Islamic cities. So what's the difference between these holy cities, holy sacred shrine cities, and traditional Islamic cities? The holy sacred shrine cities are the same as the traditional Islamic cities, where the core is represented by the mosque, grand mosque, and it's surrounded by traditional market, followed by the residential area, and in some cases, the wall the walls surrounded these cities to protect them. So what's the difference between the traditional Islamic cities and holy sacred shrine cities? The main difference is the replacement of the grand mosque by the holy shrine, and the mosque becomes associated with this grave, as we can see here in this image. So as I mentioned, we're going to focus on two examples, Najaf and Kerbala. And these sites are very important because they are very lively sites where people from around the world gathered here, there in these cities in special occasions. For many Muslims, there are around 52 special events during a year, and people from around the world gathered in many of these events. And people from Iraq who are lives near these sites gathered in weekly base, basically in Thursday and Friday. So I'll start with An-Najaf Old City. An-Najaf is located in southern Baghdad, around 100 miles. It has very unique geographical characteristics, where the western desert covered the western part of this site, and close to this site, the west part of this old city, An-Najaf Sea or Bahr Najaf, the southern part is the palm tree fields, and in the north part of the old city, which is close adjustment to this city, is Wadi Salam Cemetery or Valley of Peace. We're going to speak about Valley of Peace later on in this presentation. So why Najaf city is very important? And Najaf city is very important for whole Muslims, not only for Iraqi people. It's known as An-Najaf al-Ashraf, or most honorable cities. It's very important because it has the grave of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, peace be upon him. He is one of the most important figures after the Prophet Muhammad in Islamic culture, and he's also the son-in-law for the Prophet Muhammad and the father of Hassan and Hussein, peace be upon them, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. We're going to speak more about Imam Hussein Holy Shrine later on in this presentation. So Imam Ali was assassinated in Kufa, 10 kilometers in the eastern part of the old city, around in 661 AD, and the grave revealed after around 100 years, and in exactly 750. During this 100 year, it was sacred for political reasons. And once the burial place was revealed, the tomb was built, and people started to gather there and started to visit and settle down near and around the tomb. So why it's very important, this city? We're going to speak about two most important characteristics about this city. The main one, or the first one, is Hawzat al-Najaf, or al-Najaf Seminary. Al-Najaf Seminary is very important seminary in the world, and it's the most, let's say, famous seminary in Islamic culture or Islamic literature. It's the seminaries, it has many seminaries, small schools and seminaries in different parts of the old city. The old city is divided into 4 main neighborhoods: Al-Mishraq neighborhood, Al-Imara, Al-Huwaish, and Al-Ibraq. Mahallat Al-Ibraq, Wal-Huwaish, and Mahallat Al-Imara, and Mahallat Al-Mishraq. As an example of this seminary, or Al-Hawza Al-Ilmiya, and it's very important because it's very old. It's established on 1054, so around 1,000 years ago. And an example of how it's important in the urban fabric of the city, we can see the Al-Huwaish neighborhood, or Mahallat Al-Huwaish, has around 20 seminaries and Islamic educational studies and activities, as we can see here in these photos. All these seminaries belong to the main seminaries, or the main seminary, which is the Hawzat al-Najaf, or Al-Hawza al-Ilmi in al-Najaf. And as mentioned, it's very old, and some of these seminaries all of these seminaries around 300 or 400 years old. And people are practicing their education in the same way as previously, and of course they have now more developed and advanced educational system, but some of them still have the same way of education, as we can see here in these photos, how people and scholars are gathered to learn about Islamic jurisprudence and Islamic history and culture. Another aspect of Al-Najaf is Wadi Salam Cemetery, the Valley of Peace, which represents one of the largest cemeteries in the world, or maybe it's the largest cemetery in the world. As I've mentioned before, it's located in the northern part of the city, and it's covered the main area of the northern part of the new city, and its close association with the old city, because it's associated with the Islamic literature and culture about how important to bury people there next to this grave or to the holy shrine. And it's, despite the fact it's the cemeteries belong to the dead people, it's very lively sites, as people who grave their belonging or their beloved in these sites visiting these sites regularly, or this cemetery regularly, and in yearly based, and sometime in weekly based for those who just dead. And as I've mentioned, it's very lively sites on special occasions. Now turning to Kerbala Old City. Kerbala, again, is a very important city in Islamic culture, not only for Iraqi people, it's for many of Muslims. And it's northern Najaf, around 50 miles, and southern Baghdad, around 60 to 80 miles. And it's very important, not because of the cemetery and the own house or seminary. It has own house and cemeteries, but smaller than Najaf. But the most important things about this city, because it has two graves of most important figures as well, Imam Hussein and Imam Abbas. Both are sons of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Imam Hussein is grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. It's very important city for Muslims, as it's related to the Battle of Kerbala, where the Imam Hussein and Imam Abbas killed in this battle in 680 AC. And people visiting this site again regularly and in special occasions. The main visits are, as we can see here, in the 10th of Muharram, which is the anniversary of the Battle of Karbala, where around 15 million people gathered in these sites. And more people are gathered in the Ziyarat al-Arba'in, or the 40 days after the death, the anniversary of the 40 days after the death, exactly on the 20th of Safar. And according to the official statistics, there were around 25 million people gathered during the few years, during the last 5 years, in yearly basis. So this huge, let's say, gathering create an challenging for authorities there and local government how to cope up with this kind of gathering, and to make this city welcoming pilgrims from around the world easily. And that's obvious by creating and changing the urban fabric of the cities from the narrow alleys to very big and wide streets. And as we can see, this image on the top left side, on the bottom left, represents the sites, this city more than 30 years ago, and nowadays this city has this kind of very wide area, mainly between the two graves, to manage to cope up with the thousands or millions of people during special occasions, and thus create very huge impact on the urban fabric and changing on the Islamic and traditional architecture of these cities. And now there are more proposals to destroy the urban fabric, the current urban fabric, to have larger mosque to cover all people, and to cope up with the gathering of millions of people on special occasions. In conclusion, the existence of the holy shrines and the formation of the urban fabric in the holy Islamic cities have not given much attention. Also, there are no educate studies contribute to the understanding and awareness of the impact of these shrines in the formation of the urban fabric.